Oh,
All right, and we should be live.
Excellent. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fanimal's second ever Facebook Live event. Tonight, we are hosting a panel on the topic of youth conservation education. This panel is part of our 10-day crowdfunding campaign focused on that very same topic. At Fanimal, we support caring about all kinds of animals: dogs, cats, porcupines, pangolins, earthworms, chickens, octopus, and yes, even narwhals. The topic of wildlife conservation is broad and deep, but we are going to focus today on why it's important to get kids involved in conservation early and the two programs that we have that helps to do that. Our panel consists of 4 experts, and I am joined by Colton Bentley, who is going to be doing all the tech behind the scenes. Thank goodness for Colton. Colton, thank you for being here tonight and for all the heavy lifting you've done to plan the session, as well as our entire crowdfunding campaign.
Of course.
Our panelists have conservation credentials several meters long. I mean, so many kilometers. It's just, it goes on and on and on. So I will ask them to only provide, 1 or 2 affiliations when I call on you to introduce yourself. So Jenna?
hello, my name is Jenna Samsel. I am a park ranger with South Carolina State Parks, as well as a youth program coordinator for Fanimal.
Awesome. Fabi?
Hi, I'm Fabiola, or Fabi. I graduated as a wildlife biologist from the University of Georgia, and I currently work as the special events coordinator at the Chattahoochee Nature Center in Roswell, Georgia.
And Sarah?
Hi, my name is Sarah Bowser, and I, during the day, am a wildlife educator and environmental educator in San Francisco, California, and I'm also the director of environmental education for Fanimal.
Nora?
Hi, I'm Nora Livingstone. I am the founder of Animal Experience International. We get people to volunteer with animals, but I also am the host of Animal Chat Time on Fanimal.
And Colton, last but not least.
So my name is Colton, and I am currently a summer intern with Fanimal, and I go to Appalachian State University.
Awesome. It's a great panel. Let's get started. Jenna, I'm going to ask you to take this first question. Jenna, and then maybe Fabi, what is conservation education?
So conservation education is the practice of using educational means to positively impact how individuals perceive and understand wildlife, animal habitats, and generally the natural world around us, and even beyond around the world. So a common goal of conservation education is to further positively impact the behavior of the individuals that we are able to reach, meaning that educators, like a lot of people on this panel, want our audience to take away some action or way to advocate for the natural world. For example, when I'm talking about education, when I'm doing education myself, one of the things that I like to focus on is encouraging my audience to limit plastic use or recycle more often.
Yeah, so just to tack onto that, conservation education is definitely a great way for getting all sorts of populations, demographics, young, old, all sorts of social classes of people to get involved in the community, learning about, the natural resources that are around them, that they interact with, and that are available to them. And when I focus on conservation education, part of the Chattahoochee Nature Center's mission is to get your nature on, or to get people out there in nature. So we really focus on trying to get people outside and get hands-on into getting involved with the natural environment and the community around them. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to go right back to you, Fabi. When should conservation education start in a person's life, and when should it end?
So it never ends. Yeah, it should never end. No education should really ever end. We should always be learning all the time. When should it start? It should start whenever you decide that it should. So not everyone has the same kind of opportunities growing up, to be, outside, involved with nature, getting exposure to all those animals and plants and forests and all sorts of wildlife and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean you can't start later. I started later. I didn't get that kind of exposure until college. Some people don't do that until, their kids get involved in it. And there's nothing wrong with that. So you start whenever you need to start. The fact that you are starting something and getting interested in something is something you should be proud of.
And I just wanted to tag on really quickly to something that Fabiola just said, saying that some people don't get started in conservation education sometimes way later in life, or when their kids get into it. And that is one thing that I absolutely love in education, environmental education. We often call this pester power, which is where you have young children or younger children that become so interested in something, and they learn it in school, or they learn it on a field trip, or they learn it in some other program, and then they take it home and literally pester their family members until they learn the same thing and take on kind of the same behaviors. For example, with Jenna's example before about wanting to reduce plastic consumption, sometimes if you have young children who learn this, they're going to kind of pester their parents or maybe their grandparents to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't use that plastic cup. Don't we have cups at home that you could use? I remember the teacher that I had at this location said this before. And so a lot of the times what you'll see is parents or grandparents or other individuals get involved when their young kids get involved. And that's one of the reasons that I'm really happy to be able to focus on here, kind of programming that focus on really young children and kind of build that opportunity for pester power. Because when you start to teach the children, there's a really big opportunity and a big chance for them to actually teach the rest of their family members and other people outside your program.
I love that. We're all going to remember pester power. Thanks, Sarah. Nora, I'm going to ask you to take the next question, please. When and how can someone become an advocate for conservation?
Well, I think all of us are right now advocates for conservation because all of us at the table and watching have an interest and a curiosity for animals, watersheds, and natural world, trees, things like that. When you show interest in anything, you show it has intrinsic value. And when you show it has intrinsic value, you're showing that it should be conserved, it should be saved. And so it's not about learning the true high science of biology, and it's not about going into politics right away. If we can know anything, or if we can learn anything from Greta Thunberg or Autumn Peltier up here in Canada, all you have to do is say something is worth protecting, and it is because I'm curious, because it's beautiful, because it's important. And so it doesn't have to start in a 1, 2, 3 kind of way. All of us love animals. All of us are fanimals. And so all of us are actually advocates. And so we can all use our voices starting today to say, hey, this is important.
Awesome. Thank you. So sometimes when we think about wildlife conservation, we think about faraway places, places where we don't live, megafauna, if you will. But I would like to hear why it is important to talk about conservation of animals that are closer to home. Sarah, would you take this?
Absolutely, because I love this question. And as a wildlife educator, this is kind of what I do all day. I love, love, love talking about native animals or animals that are native to North America or areas that I teach, because you notice a lot that a large variety of education shows are really going to focus on what we might call really charismatic megafauna. They're going to be the really big, fuzzy, super cute creatures. They might be panda bears, for example, something that people can readily see. They're usually a lot larger versus, microorganisms. They're going to be fuzzy, really fun to look at, or have really, really funny behaviors. Right. And those are animals that oftentimes we do end up focusing on ones that are on the other side of the world, whether it become, giant pandas, whether it's lions or giraffes. And it's a kind of a big issue because here when I'm teaching, I notice that I have kids who can tell me from a nature show that they watched a special about African safaris and they know all of these different things about all these animals. But then when it comes to going outside, right outside where we're teaching, they have no idea about what animals exist here. And they're actually the animals that you are going to have a great chance of interacting with that day or in your everyday life. And so I always encourage people to learn more about the animals and the native animals in their area, wherever you are, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in the US, or if you are on another side of the world. You don't have to look that far. You don't have to go to the other side of the world to find amazing, wonderful creatures, because I promise you, if you look just a little bit, they're right there, right next to you. And that actually opens up a lot of opportunity for you to have wonderful experiences with these animals because they're right there.
Nora, do you have anything to add to that?
I absolutely do.
Okay.
I think Sarah brings up a really brilliant point that there are animals that need our protection and need our conservation close to home. And who better to talk about these animals that we're curious about and interested in than the people that live next to them? If there are anything from hummingbirds to Virginia opossums to raccoons to mountain lions in your backyard, why would you not look at those and go, oh, wait, someone from around the world looking at these animals will think that they're amazing. Why do I not think they're amazing? And you very easily, as an advocate, can look around and say, I am going to advocate for my neighbors who happen to be animals to help them have a place to live and be welcome and be comfortable. And it's not, Sarah was bringing up charismatic megafauna, that they're really big animals, but there's also really small animals that need our protection. It's really easy to look at a panda bear and go, yes, that needs protection because look at its face. Of course it does. But if we dig around in the soil in our backyard, sometimes even in our houses, maybe there isn't soil exactly in our house, but if we look around and we zoom in on these animals, we're sharing space with so many of them. And it's not just about conserving the big panda bears, it's about conserving all of the animals because we're all connected together. And so when we are looking at big and small, what needs conservation outside, we can say, it's not somewhere far off. It's not somewhere that I have to take a plane to. It's not somewhere that I need to have a lot of education about. Something in my backyard, something in my house right now that I can really help. And that is, I think, so empowering and so wonderful for all of us. We can start right now, and that's pretty cool.
Nora, you mentioned small animals. On Animal Chat Time last season, I know you talked about fireflies, right?
I did.
Okay. So in Animal Chat Time, we talk about big and small.
We do. Everything from big things in the sea, like colossal squid, to little things in my backyard, like fireflies.
So the next question, Fabi, I would love to get your take on this. How does conservation education help us to understand the relationship between human animals and non-human animals? Oh, you are muted.
That's a great question. Thank you. So conservation education is a really good avenue for helping people understand relationships in the environment, not just the science part, as we mentioned before, but also like the social, the cultural, the economical, and the biological, and how that all kind of connects, like all is one and one is all. So conservation education, I think, really helps people realize exactly how connected everything is, big and small, visible and non-visible, things that, you never even thought of. Just learning about how, certain agriculture may affect the benthic macroinvertebrates in the stream from the runoff in the field, but you didn't think about that because they're tiny, tiny, itty bitty, little crawfish and salamanders and then giant cows. So you don't think that they're connected, but when we're all together, we're all connected. So you get to learn about how certain things affect other things. And then also just becoming a bit more aware of your environment, because I think it's very easy when, you're always looking to your destination to not stop and turn over rocks and look in trees and just stop and smell and look and listen for all of the things that are surrounding you, all the amazing living creatures around us.
Jenna, you want to jump in and add anything to that?
Sure. To add to Fabiola's answer, conservation education helps us better understand this relationship between us as human animals, if you will, and wildlife by promoting critical thinking through typically structured education and programs and activities that have specific intentions, goals, and outcomes. So those critical thinking skills that we develop and we use in those programs lead to us understanding how our actions, again, as human animals, influence the lives of non-human animals, like Fabiola said, in our own backyards, and even thinking bigger across the globe.
I feel like having that understanding of the relationship is like the first step to perhaps having empathy for other animals or other creatures. So Jenna, back to you. How is empathy nurtured through conservation education?
Sure.
Is that a good?
I really like this question, and it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes by artist Andy Goldsworthy. And it is, we often forget that we are nature and nature is not something separate from us. So conservation education programs like Animal Chat Time and Junior Fanimal here at Fanimal helps to promote and develop that connection between nature and us as humans. And empathy is really defined as understanding and sharing the feelings of another. And that can be people, of course, as all of us know, but thinking in terms of a fanimal, also sharing the feelings of an animal. So by teaching the relationship between the natural world and us as humans through conservation education, we're sharing the idea that our actions impact nature and therefore animals and wildlife. So further, in the process of that educational experience, we can learn that our actions, when it's simply put, can have a negative impact or a positive impact. When you look at the bare bones of, how we act and how we behave. And so most often when we learn through education and learn to appreciate wildlife, we really want those actions and impacts that we have to end up being positive. So simply to wrap up what my idea is right now is that we grow an understanding and appreciation for the natural world when we learn. And that really leads to us having empathy for the natural world around us.
And I would add to that, Jenna, that sharing is caring, which we all know and we've all said, but like humans sometimes do not share the planet, but if we actually do share, it shows that we are caring. And as like kind of glib as that sounds, that is what empathy brings us when we are thinking about conservation education. I remember when I was doing research for Animal Chat Time and we were learning about narwhals, I learned that some narwhals have 2 tusks. But narwhals in general are not, they're not mean to each other. They're in really big pods. And if you have 1 or 2 tusks, they don't care. You are part of the pod, you're part of the family. And I think that is so lovely. And I think knowing that these animals have personalities, they have food preferences. Anytime anyone who's done any work with wildlife, with animals, they know every animal they work with has a certain favorite food. And once you know an animal has a favorite food, they must have a favorite other thing, and they must have something that they don't like. So once we learn this, we learn that, well, if that crow really likes mealworms and this narwhal really likes its friends and doesn't care what they look like, isn't it really difficult to not want to conserve them? Isn't it really difficult to not think, well, maybe bears also have a favorite food, and maybe spiders in my house really have a favorite food as well, or they have maybe friends, or maybe they're introverts. But once you start learning about personalities and culture and things like that in animals, then it's hard to think maybe we could share just a little bit more.
So this next question is, I will tell the truth, my favorite. We are here to celebrate conservation education, but we are also here to celebrate the two programs at Fanimal that enact and inspire conservation education, Animal Chat Time and Junior Fanimal. So Jenna, I'm going to ask you to speak to Junior Fanimal. Nora, if you could speak to Animal Chat Time. How do these programs provide a range of commitment options for participants, or participation options for participants?
Sure. To speak to the Junior Fanimal program, while we are currently working on making the Junior Fanimal program available for school teachers and other educators to use with their own classes and groups, we are so excited to share that the Junior Fanimal team, with the help of donations from Fanimals out there, people like you, our viewers and supporters, we will also be developing on-demand videos that will guide young animal advocates through a wide variety of fun, engaging, and structured activities. So that means that in the near future, Junior Fanimal will be able to be completed on your own time and even at your own home. This means that your commitment level is really up to you, the way that you want to use your time, the way that you want to structure it. We just would really like to get you involved and get your kids involved, have the whole family involved. So the program has been developed to be flexible and accessible to all through those on-demand videos that we are excited to be working on following this fundraiser that we are hosting right now.
Nora, what about Animal Chat Time?
Thanks. Sorry, my internet cut out, so I didn't know where we were. So I would never compare myself to David Attenborough, but I'm about to. I think Animal Chat Time is amazing because it is a once-a-week show that you don't have to do anything for. You just show up, and I excitedly tell you all about animals. And I am genuinely excited because I learned that some narwhals have 2 tusks. And I learned what narwhals are. And so there are some families that show up as a whole family and watch everything and then discuss as a group, which is very darling. There are some individuals that show up and paint at the same time. There's some that show up and say, oh, I brought my stuffed frog with me. It is interactive at the end. I give a presentation. I tell about the behavior, the natural history, just a little bit more about like the animal we're talking about. If it's giant squid or owls, migratory birds, fireflies, chickens. I also talk about fish skateboards. It's very important. It's amazing because I get to say, this is what this animal is. And this is what lives on earth with us, and this is what we share land with. And then people at the end, kids, adults, everyone in between, gets to say, what about this, and do we know about that, and why are things concerning, and how does climate change affect things, or how many tentacles does a squid have? It's really interactive, and you don't have to do any homework for it, and you can show up every week, or you don't have to show up every week. We also record them, and we make sure that I'm the only face that people see, so everyone's privacy is well taken care of. But it means that you can also watch it on demand. You can, just really go back and say, I thought that I learned this about chickens. I'm not sure if it's true. Probably is. They're amazing. And so, so Animal Chat Time is, once a week, but then it's truly evergreen because it is online and you can watch it at any time.
Awesome. So Nora, going back to you, what are some benefits that the kids come away with having participated in the Animal Chat Time?
Well, I think you literally learn about animals. And I think the really amazing thing is every season of Animal Chat Time, not the first one, because we decided those animals, but the second season and this season, people are going to get to vote on the animals they want to learn about. And I think that's amazing because there's animals in our backyards, like fireflies, that people say, I actually don't understand bioluminescence, and I would like to learn more about that. And there's also animals like African spring hares that people go, I have never heard of this. Can you just do the work? I just want to watch a half-hour show that you tell me about. And so people are literally learning about the animals, but then through learning, there is more curiosity and there is more empathy. I also heard from, I'm going to call them my fans, but from other Fanimals, that some of the children who watched made their own animal chat time, and they were showing off. There were cichlids and there were sharks, and someone talked about cows to their family, which isn't that amazing that you get to see your friends, your family, your kids, people just engaged and excited and wanting to learn and wanting to share. I think that is truly the amazing thing about conservation education, about, I would say, animal chat time. It's truly successful because people watch and they go, whoa, I need to tell people about this. Things need to be protected because how could I not know this existed? People have to know.
And Sarah, would you speak to Junior Fanimal and some of the benefits that the participants gained from that program, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to kind of clarify that for those maybe who aren't as familiar with the Junior Fanimal program, while animal chat time is kind of, you get to join in like an hour long, you join in that one time and you can pick and choose when you're going to come in. Junior Fanimal is actually a little bit longer. And so whenever you compare like kind of commitment times, it's really great that we actually have two programs that kind of operate on two ends of the spectrum, right? So animal chat time is really, really low commitment. You can come in, it's kind of on demand. You can come back and check. Junior Fanimal actually operates for several weeks consecutively, one after the other, where you're not only, at least in its current state, you're not only interacting with other people who are participating, you're also interacting with those who are actually leading the program and leading those activities. But it is actually a little bit of a longer commitment, which is really cool. And the way it's a commitment is it actually is almost like this badge board. It's a way for you to earn these interactive badges as you complete activities that all bring back to animal advocacy. And I really love this program just because I think it is so much fun. And I think a lot of our participants think that it's so much fun. Basically, the way that it works is if you think of a bingo board where along the top, we have a variety of kind of animal groups, right? So you might have birds, you might have reptiles, amphibians, large mammals, small mammals. That's along the top. And then along the opposite side is where it's actually going to have kind of these subject categories where you can focus in on volunteering, advocacy. One of them is focusing in on just being artistic and creative. One of them is actually how you can kind of implement these really great kind of physical games and actually get some physical activity while thinking about animals. And some are vocational, learning about careers. There are a million and one things. I think that our board now has well over 100 different activities that all relate back to animals and animal advocacy in this Junior Fanimal Badge Board. And one of the reasons that I always encourage people to participate is because, one, not only are you going to get to learn about all different types of animals, you're going to get to be creative. We're going to encourage you to think differently. You are going to learn actual tangible ways that you can make a difference in the lives of these animals. Now, sometimes it's really great to know so much about them and have all these wonderful facts about them. But as part of this program, you can learn, here is one thing you can go out and do today that will make an actual difference in the lives of these animals, that you can take some control in being an animal advocate that way, taking it much more out of just the mental part and taking it really into the physical world by your actions. And I just think that's so cool. And not only can you do that kind of day of, we actually do have one of our programs is vocational. So we talk about animal careers. And I can't tell you how many times my heart has melted with participants telling me, that I never knew that a herpetologist was a career, but now I want to be that when I grow up. And so we have this really wonderful opportunity to engage with all of our participants. They're able to learn so many different things in so many different categories. No matter what you're interested in, it's probably in there. And then we've seen how they really take that in and absorb it, and then potentially might be changing their answer to what they want to be when they grow up. So not only does it have that really wonderful impact that way, but as you participate, every time you complete an activity, you win a super cool badge. Like, who doesn't want that? Not only do you get one that's just sent to you, so it's a digital badge, you also get a copy that you can print out and color yourself. You can make it whatever colors you want. You can totally customize it. And I think that's so cool. And by the end of the whole program, you've got all these badges. You have so much to show people. Our participants are so proud of them, and I'm proud of them. It's a really great program that you can do so many different things. Anybody, like I said, anybody with any interest can get involved. And then you have all these wonderful badges to show, hey, look, I earned my arts and creative badge, and this is what I did to earn that. And I'm so proud of myself and the work that I did. And so, I just think that it's one of the coolest things. You have so many things. There's so many reasons that you should participate in that program, especially if your kids, it is geared towards kids who are around 8 to 12 years old. And so they're, old enough now to be able to take in a lot of this information. And I think that they're really hungry for that tangible aspect that the Junior Fanimal program provides. And again, like I said, not only in giving you something that you can do that day, but also kind of helping set up maybe a potential career for you in the future if you want to pursue animal advocacy or an animal focused career. And we're here to kind of help you do that, help kind of set you up for that, even at a really young age. So obviously I'm a little bit biased. I love Junior Fanimal program. If you can't tell, I think it's great. Has a lot of tangible benefits as well as the intangible, just being able to learn and see how cool these animals are. But it is really great, again, to compare Animal Chat Time and Junior Fanimal to kind of a lower commitment with Animal Chat Time, where you can just kind of show up and have a great time and hang out with Nora and her smiling face, because who doesn't want to do that? But then Junior Fanimal, you can actually kind of sign up, and as we're working to implement it into schools, and obviously the more funding that we're able to gain here through fundraisers like this, the more students and participants we can reach, which is why I'm always going to kind of ask that if you have the funds to be able to do so, to donate, so we can continue to create and continue to expand these programs to reach more participants. But it's just all really cool. We can just sum it up like that. Both are really cool. Junior Fanimal's great, Animal Chat Time's great, and these are programs really worth supporting.
I don't know how you all made me more excited about these programs than I already am, but just hearing you talk about them and what they inspire, the conservation ethic that they inspire, yes. Nora, I think I know the answer to this last question, but let's just go ahead and say it. How can someone best support youth conservation education at Fanimal?
Well, Sarah brilliantly brought it home and made my life very easy. It's, contributing to the crowdfunding campaign would be super brilliant and very, very helpful. But that's only one step. Sharing the campaign is super important. If you think that conservation is important, then other people will as well. If you are a Fanimal, you should get other people to be Fanimals. People might not know that we exist, and that's a real shame, because then they don't know that Junior Fanimal exists. They don't know that Animal Chat Time exists. So sharing the campaign, sharing the programs, going on social media. We have robust, amazing social media that is super interesting. So go on, follow, share, all the other things, subscribe. Why not? I hear that on podcasts. And rewatch Animal Chat Time. They're so fun. If you want to learn more about the animals, if you just love the sound of my own voice like I do, then rewatch them and just, become even more of an advocate. You can be an advocate to be an advocate for conservation education very simply, just by sharing, telling people, and of course, donating.
Use your pester power.
Pester power.
To learn more about Fanimal's crowdfunding campaign and to see some of the very cool perks that we haven't even told you about, we have for supporters, go to fanimal.online/connect/youth conservation. I do have that link in the chat, but you can also go to the Fanimal website, fanimal.online, and click on the pancake menu. The very first button is youth conservation. And we want you to support youth conservation by supporting Fanimal. None of Fanimal's programs would happen without support from animal lovers like all of you watching right now. So please consider contributing to the crowdfunding campaign, and you can get some pretty cool perks. I love all these panelists, and I thank you for joining in. Love all of you watching us right now and learning about Fanimal's programs. Please follow us on social media. Show an animal some love this week. And we will just see you on Animal Chat Time and on Junior Fanimal. Thank you, everyone.